Hi, y'all, and welcome back. If you're new here, welcome and glad you found us. I am JoJo, and it is great to meet you. We are about to talk about another true crime case and hopefully see justice be done. But before we do, please hit that like button. And if you haven't already, click subscribe and turn your bell notifications to all so you can make sure to be notified when I post new videos. Thank you, everyone, for all your support. It means the world to me. Now sit back, kick off your shoes, grab your tissues and stress balls, and let's dive in. The content you are about to watch contains the subject matter of a real-life true crime event. Therefore, it is not suitable for all ages and is only intended for adults. Hi, y'all. Tonight what we're going to do is we're going to be going and looking at the Travis Decker case, as well as the Mykel Brown case, which is the Montana Quadruple Homicides. These are going to be just brief backgrounds on the Decker and the Brown. I am going to be doing a deep dive on the Decker case. I haven't quite decided on the Brown case yet. I did catch Brown. He is finally in custody. But the only reason why I am doing a background on the Brown as well with the Decker is because of the fact that the article that I wanted to bring to you guys tonight is actually an expert that is talking about both Decker and Brown because they are both military veterans. They both allegedly committed homicides. Both ended up taking off and evaded capture, although Decker is still allegedly on the run. But tonight I am also going to give you my unpopular opinion on the Decker case, which I have been kind of sort of keeping to myself. As you can see right here, this is Grok. I just did a real quick timeline pull up on Grok, but like I said, I will be doing a more in-depth detailed video on the Decker case. I already have a lot of stuff brought up, and I'm in the process of trying to get some docs and whatnot. So this is just going to be a brief rundown of the background so that you, if you don't already know the Decker case, you'll at least have some kind of foundation to go off of when you listen to the expert talking about Decker. So here we go. This is a timeline. This is actually a complete timeline, or well, not really a complete. I wouldn't say a complete, but I guess as far as the records go in the public side. So Travis Decker is a 32-year-old Army veteran from Washington State, and he is accused of red rumming his three young daughters, Paityn, which was 9, Evelyn, which was 8, and Olivia, which was 5. On or around May 30th, 2025. As of August 12th, 2025, which is today when I am doing this recording, he remains at large, with search efforts scaled back but ongoing. Below is a comprehensive chronological timeline compiled from multiple sources, focusing on his background, the events leading to the red rums, the incident itself, and the subsequent manhunt. Dates are approximate where not explicitly stated. So you've got approximately 1993, which is when Decker was born in Pewaukee, Washington, or Wisconsin. I hope I got that right. Making him 32 in 2025. Then he later joins the U.S. Army, which 2014 is when he is deployed. Decker is deployed to Afghanistan while on active duty in the Army, where he begins experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD for short, symptoms, including nightmares and sleep issues. And then approximately 2015, he does get married to Whitney Decker. They have 3 daughters, Paityn, She was born approximately 2016. Evelyn was born approximately 2017. And Olivia was born approximately 2020. The marriage is marked by Decker's mental health struggles, including isolation, paranoia, and borderline personality disorder. Then in 2021, military transfer. So Decker is transferred from active Army duty to the Washington National Guard. Then in 2022, Decker and Whitney divorced after over 7 years of marriage, primarily due to his untreated mental health issues and lack of access to care. Whitney gains full custody of the children. Whitney seemed to really care about him, and he seemed to really care about them girls too. So, it seemed like Whitney did not want to completely take his parenting rights away from him, and she was kind of struggling with that. She did see he was trying to be a good parent, and he was trying to be a good dad. He wasn't able to get the mental help that he needed, and that's pretty dang sad if you ask me, because in my opinion, if you serve this country and you fought for my freedom, you should be able to get whatever help that you need, whether it be physically, mentally, or whatever. You should be able to get that help without having to jump through all these hoops and everything. So this is part of the reason why this case really, really eats at me, because all of this could completely have been prevented. I don't know the exact details of everything, so I really can't say if he just did not fight it enough or what, but you know what? He shouldn't have had to fight it. He should have just been able to walk up and say, hey, look, I've got this problem, this problem, this problem. I need help. And they should have said, okay, come on in. Let's help you. Plain and simple. That's the way I see it anyways. But what do I know? Anyway, moving on. 2023. Separation process begins. Administrative separation from the Washington National Guard is prepared but not finalized. Decker remains in the Guard. So, September 2024. This is when Whitney files a plan in the Chelan County Superior Court to restrict Decker's visitation due to his mental health instability, neglect of parental duties, and need for evaluations, anger management, domestic violence, and psychiatric. He is granted supervised visits 3 hours on Fridays and 8 hours every other weekend, limited to Wenatchee Valley. He was not allowed to have any overnight visits as well. Now it says supervised visits, which I don't recall that part. Now they say this is the source to this is people.com. So I have to do some digging on that, because from what I recall, that it was not supervised and that he was allowed to take them, but he could not have any overnight visits. So I'm not too sure on that one. I have to look into that further, but just kind of take that one with a grain of salt right now. So early May 2025, prior hit and run. Decker is involved in a hit-and-run crash about 3 weeks before the Red Rums. No charges are filed as the victim declines to pursue. So May 26th through the 27th, 2025. Online searches and crash. Decker searches online about relocating to Canada, e.g. how to relocate to Canada, and visits Canada job sites. On May 27th, he is involved in a minor car crash at Wenatchee Safeway Body cam footage shows him appearing disoriented, asking about jail for no insurance, and stating he lives at the armory. The victim notes he seems not in his full senses. Now, I actually pulled up this video, and I want to watch this with you guys. I've watched this video before. I really don't feel that right there is true. So I'm kind of starting to not really like people.com too much right now. But let's go ahead and we'll watch that video.
What's going on, guys?
How Travis Decker looks, acts, speaks.
Everybody was rolling and everything was going, and all of a sudden I hit him.
It's all here on a Wenatchee Police body cam video recorded on May 27th.
I wasn't on the accelerator. I was still just getting my foot off the brake because
That's 3 days before Decker disappeared with his daughters, Paityn, Evelyn, and Olivia.
They are just so adorable, aren't they?
Searchers found the girls murdered days later at a campsite near Leavenworth.
I don't know how all of a sudden it felt like he was sitting at a stop.
Now tell me, does he look like he is disoriented? Does he look like he's not in his full senses?
Light was green.
Light was green. All the other cars were rolling.
A motorist called police after Decker rammed his Ford Mustang at a stoplight, punching a hole in the bumper.
Air registration.
Okay.
Sorry if I was jacked up.
No big deal.
In the video, Decker admits he does not have insurance or a home address.
Where you at now?
I'm kind of in transit.
Okay. Where do you get mail right now?
I am receiving it at the armory over here in Wenatchee.
Decker was living out of his truck at the time, his mental state deteriorating according to court records. He seemed especially interested in whether the officer will arrest him.
Just so you know, you'll probably get a ticket in the mail for having no insurance. So we're required to do that if we respond to an accident.
Am I going to jail tonight?
Oh, no, you won't go to jail for it. That's an infraction. That's not a criminal offense.
If I didn't have
I mean, most people that don't have insurance and get into an accident like this, most normal people might actually be concerned with that, wouldn't you?
a license and I was driving, would I go to jail?
It depends.
I'm just curious. I don't know this stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, so it depends.
That conversation came after the driver that Decker hit tried to convince him he would not go to jail for a minor accident. That driver, who declined an on-camera interview, told me I could tell he was not in his full senses. He described Decker's odd questions and answers and his body language. Dashcam video we got last week shows Decker looking almost bored and nonchalant during the incident.
What happens if it's suspended?
That's a crime. Yeah.
Can you go to jail for that?
You can.
Depending on
It depends on the situation.
life.
It's hard to know what was in Decker's mind 3 days before he disappeared with the girls. But his final words to the police officer gave no hint of what was to come.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Have a better day.
They're all great days.
What's
I
that?
said they're all great days.
Yeah. All right.
Hey,
man.
be safe out
Yeah,
there.
thank you. What's going on, guys?
Tell me, did y'all get the same feeling as what that driver or the victim said about him? To me, he just seemed like he was just kind of chill, but at the same time, he was a little bit worried about going to prison or jail because he didn't have insurance. I mean, other than that, he seemed perfectly fine. He seemed normal to me. Granted, I don't know his baseline, but he didn't seem like he was really real anxious or not in his full senses, quote unquote. I don't know. Tell me your thoughts. Put them down there in the comments for me, please, because I really don't feel like he was acting out of the ordinary, in my opinion. So we're going to go ahead and move on now to May 29th through 30. And Decker's phone pings in and around Leavenworth. This later expands search areas. Then May 30th is when he picks up his daughters. So Decker picks up his daughters for a planned visitation around 5 p.m. in Wenatchee. He chats with Whitney for 15 to 20 minutes, promising to return by 8 p.m., but fails to do so. Whitney reports a civil complaint to the police at 9:35 p.m., noting his mental health issues, homelessness, he was living in his vehicle or at campsites, and financial stress. Calls to his phone go to voicemail. Police begin searching using license plate readers. His truck is last seen crossing the Wenatchee Bridge. So then on May 31st, a missing alert is issued. This is another thing that kind of irked me. Family misses a planned 5K event. Endangered missing persons alert is issued at 4 p.m. by Washington State Patrol. Not an Amber Alert criteria met. And on my deep dive, I will go into more about that. Probable cause established for 3 counts of first-degree custodial interference. And I will also, on my deep dive, I will also be going into a lot more about when he picked up the girls, things that were said, and there was also some comments made by the neighbors. There is so much more to this case than what I am going to talk about today. June 1st, 2025, warrants issued. Arrest warrants for custodial interference are granted and entered into the system. Then on June 2nd, alert canceled. Decker's truck found at 3:45 p.m. near Rock Island Campground in Chelan County. Bodies of the girls discovered approximately 75 to 100 yards away. Now, I have to throw up my trigger warning here because we are going to be talking about how they were found. So if you are sensitive to these kind of things, then please go ahead and skip over this part. I will take down the trigger warning once I have gotten past this part so you'll know when to jump back in. Bodies of the girls were discovered approximately 75 to 100 yards away, suffocated with plastic bags over their heads, wrist zip-tied, bloody handprints on truck tailgate, zip ties and bags strewn about. Decker missing, charged with 3 counts of first-degree red rum and kidnapping. Search begins. He's considered armed and dangerous with wilderness survival skills. Now, I think we can go ahead and take that trigger warning back down. And I think that was it for as far as trigger warnings go. So welcome back if you did go ahead and skip beyond the trigger warning spot. Okay, formal charges. 3 counts aggravated first-degree red rum. 3 counts kidnapping. Press conference urges surrender. $20,000 reward offered by U.S. Marshal. Over 100 officers involved, and that was on June 3rd, 2025. And then on June 4th, 2025, ground air searches with helicopters, tip line updated, recent photos, videos released, U.S. Forest Service urges avoidance of Icicle Creek area, possible Idaho sighting debunked. And then June 5th, encampments Icicle Creek closed through June 18th. Fines up to $5,000. I guess if you went into the area, you could get a fine up to $5,000. Whitney's lawyer blames systematic mental health failures, no prior red flags, residents advised to lock doors, possible Pacific Crest Trail PCT travel noted. June 6th, charged with unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. Over 500 tips. More than 100 officers searching. Governor deploys National Guard helicopters. Lawyers suggest self-harm possible. Describes Decker as active dad, quote unquote. June 7th, 24-hour patrols in Kittitas, I think that's how you say that, county. Public caution urged. Then on June 8th, federal takeover. U.S. Marshal led manhunt. Local agencies shift to criminal probe. Tip lines active. June 9th. Okay, trigger warning has to go back up. Sorry, you guys. Here we go. Cause, suffocation, manner, homicide. GoFundMe for Whitney exceeds $1 million. We can take the trigger warning back down. June 13th, affidavit. Details. Court documents reveal more on scene, e.g., bloody items. And then June 17th, search update. Ongoing aerial ground searches in Chelan, Kittitas counties with multiple agencies, K9s, and drones. June 18th, Kittitas County applies tactics from 2020 wilderness search. June 24th, authorities consider if Decker left Washington mountains. Search ongoing 3 weeks post Redrums. June 28, nearly month-long search yields, quote, no certain evidence, end quote. Decker is alive or in area. Challenges, dense fog, 90% public land inaccessible by road. Theories, fled to Canada via PCT, which we've seen up here. PCT stands for Pacific Crest Trail. Coordination with RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Resources reduced compared to past fugitives like Eric Rudolph, which I don't know who Eric Rudolph is, so that's somebody that I would have to look into. So June 30th, abandoned tent/cooler confiscated 15 miles from scene. Deputy recalls finding truck. Now, this here is kind of where my unpopular theory comes in. July 1, 2025. Blood on truck matches Decker. No other suspects. Search continue in Crystal, Ingalls Creeks. So now I want to pause on this for a minute so that we're on July 1 here, okay? I'm going to pause on July 1st. And we're going to go over and take a look over here at this article. I think that, yeah, this is the one. Okay, so DNA evidence ties fugitive father to alleged redrum of 3 daughters as manhunt leads run cold. Authorities say Travis Decker is probably unalive. U.S. Marshals offer $20,000 reward. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to watch this little video right here. It's just a short news clip. This is him during the hearing for the change in custody, the last change in custody, where basically they completely cut down his the what do you call it, the parental plan, I think they call it, where he is limited to only 3 hours on Friday and then 8 hours over the weekend, and he can't do any overnights. And just really listen to what he says and listen to his voice and tell me, what do you think? about this interview. What do you get out of this interview with I think it's an officer, or it may be like a DCF officer type of person. So yeah, just take a real good listen.
So tell me why you don't agree that there is adequate cause to move forward with the trial regarding the parenting plan.
I already only get a day and a half, 2 days with my daughters, and it's 2 nights. It's a Friday night, Saturday night. And because of my current job and the current location, I'm in Idaho working. I'm in the union as a carpenter, and so where I go, or where the work is where I go. And through the new parenting plan, it takes away basically all my opportunities to be around the girls when I'm not at work. Holidays and things like that. If I have the opportunity to be there for my daughters, I feel like I should be able to be there for them and not have to fight my way to be in and around my daughters. I don't believe that my weekends should be completely taken away since I have been gone. Every time I've had the girls, we have been in campsites in national forests and paid campsites that have campers. We've never done anything that was unsafe or anything I wouldn't want to put myself in. I understand that my current position when I'm by myself isn't ideal, but my daughters aren't a part of that. I only get to see them over the weekends, and camping is something that the 4 of us have done since the 3 of them were in diapers. Actually,
See, now that right there, that's something that I used to do with my family all the time when I was younger. And I don't find anything wrong with it. And I don't understand why he was not allowed to take his daughters camping. But there is some things that happen when he was staying at the armory that I will get into more when I do get my deep dive video done. That could be the reason why she did not want him to take the girls camping with him, plus the fact that that was essentially his only way of living. But to be perfectly honest, there was one summer to where me and my family were homeless, and we ended up camping out on a beach. And you know what? When I was a kid, I didn't even realize that we were homeless. I thought we were just camping out on the beach because it was a fun thing to do. And my dad would get up every morning. He would still go to work like normal. It's something that I still remember to this day, and it was a memorable experience to me. Wasn't something that traumatized me or anything. I don't really see the harm in taking the girls camping. They didn't have to know the situation behind it. All they had to know was, Daddy's taking us camping.
Columbus, Georgia, we used to go camping every 2 weeks. And so part of our time together is getting out into the nature and riding horses and experiencing things. And on the weekends that I have not been able to provide shelter, or the weekends that I've stayed at the house with Whitney and the girls because I wasn't going to try to drag them into a situation that would have been unsafe. I've never done anything I feel like that puts them in any sort of a risk that most families in the state of Washington, every campsite we've been to in the last month have been almost completely booked out or sold out because everybody's out this time of year.
Let's go ahead on to reading this article. This is about the DNA matching Decker. And this is kind of where my theory comes in to play, which is probably going to be an unpopular theory amongst most. As the manhunt for a survivalist father accused of homiciding his 3 daughters before disappearing into the Washington wilderness sails past the 1-month mark, local authorities are expressing their frustration as the trail begins to run dry. I'm still angry, quote unquote, Chelan County Sheriff's Deputy Mike McLeod told USA Today as he recounted the search for 33-year-old Travis Decker. He still hasn't been found, quote unquote. Decker, a former member of the U.S. Army and trained survivalist, is wanted for allegedly red rumming his 3 children, Paityn 9, Olivia 5, and Evelyn 8. The girls were reported missing by their mother, Whitney Decker, May 30th, after they did not return home from a court-mandated custody visit with their father. And there's Travis Decker right there. That's one of his looks. He has actually several different looks, and they have put out several different pictures of him in the media. A single email received 3 days later led authorities to Decker's white GMC pickup at Rock Island Campground, where the girl's family had told law enforcement he was likely headed for a camping trip, the outlet reported. At that point, it was still a missing persons case, quote unquote, McLeod said. Quote, once I read the email, I knew right where they would be, but things went south fast, end quote. McLeod reportedly located the vehicle while searching the area on a dirt bike, subsequently alerting dispatch of his findings. The 3 girls' bodies were found with their hands bound and plastic bags over their heads within mere feet of the truck. But look at them 3 little girls. Aren't they absolutely adorable? They're just precious. I mean, that is the one thing that we need to remember here, that these 3 little girls had their lives taken way too soon. In my theory, now I'm not 100% positive on my theory, okay? This is just a possibility. So I might as well go ahead and get it out there now. I'm going to throw this out here. I'm going to put the trigger warning up, okay? Because I am going to talk a little bit about the scene. So, at the scene, okay, we know the girls were found away from the truck. They were actually found, if I remember correctly, on kind of like an embankment that was leading down to like I think it was a creek or a river. And we already talked about how they were found, what condition they were in. And then there was zip ties and plastic bags strewn along the way going down to where the girls were. But there was 2 handprints, bloody handprints, found on the tailgate of the truck, of Decker's truck. Okay, and I'm not going into a deep dive here. I am just talking about the scene, but I will be going into more detail, of course, on my deep dive. But there was 2 bloody handprints on the tailgate of the truck. Now, of course, they can't tell when those handprints got there. But they ended up pulling 2 profiles from those handprints. One of them was not human, and they believed it to be animal. And if I'm not mistaken, that they ended up coming out saying it was dog. The other one, the human DNA profile, was a match to Decker. Okay, so now the girls didn't have no blood on them. And being that the girls were suffocated, they didn't have no open wounds. They didn't have any way that they could have bled or anything like that. There really wouldn't have been any way for him to have been injured. I mean, granted, yeah, okay, when he was suffocating the girls, they could have possibly put up a fight, but they didn't come out and say that there was any any skin cells under their nails or nothing like that. They never said anything about there being any DNA under their fingernails. Nothing like that. That actually tied the girls directly to Decker. So, my theory is, now this is only a possibility. I'm not 100% in it, but I want to throw it out there kind of as like a devil's advocate type of deal. Okay? Because this man, he fought for our country. He fought for our freedoms. And he tried to get help. He knew he had a problem. And he tried to get help for that problem. And yet, he wasn't able to. Which, first of all, that pisses me off. That's number one. Number two, this man loved his girls. And once you guys see the deep dive that I do on this, you will see that some of the things that I go into in that deep dive proves that he truly cared about these girls. And he was a good father. And I can't see, based on everything that I have found out so far about this man with his daughters, I can't see him doing this to his little girls. Yeah, he could have snapped and did it. That's a possibility. But I don't know. It's just in my heart. I just, something's telling me that something's just not right here. And he had brought the girls to the armory and had them staying there overnight with him. And Whitney got very upset about that, which I would too. Okay, I don't blame Whitney one bit, because I would be upset about that too. Because of the fact you don't know who's staying there. You don't know the background of those people that are staying there. So that kind of plays into my theory a little bit as well. Who's to say that when those girls were staying there at the armory, one of those guys didn't take a shine, quote unquote, to one of these little girls? I mean, look at those precious little angels. Okay? And you know, I mean, being in this true crime community, y'all know there's sickos out there. And there's sickos that hide behind masks. And you don't know it until it's too late. Who's to say he didn't make a friend up there at the armory and they ended up meeting these little girls and knew they couldn't do anything at the armory because of the fact that there's cameras everywhere. I mean, I'm just assuming on that part. I'm just speculating because I've never actually been to the armory or whatever. But I'm just speculating that in this day and age, there's got to be cameras all over the place over there. So they knew that there was nothing that they could do over there. So they waited until they knew that he was going to be somewhere secluded with these girls. But they knew that he was not going to let them do anything to these girls peacefully. Or another theory is that Travis ended up saying something because it was known that Travis could have a bit of a temper, but not towards his girls. He never, ever had a temper towards his girls. But he did have a bit of a mouth when it came to other people, like other adults. So who's to say that he didn't end up saying the wrong thing and piss somebody off? And they said, oh man, that's all right. We're cool. Water under the bridge. And then they buddied up with him and everything, and then ended up finding out he was going to be in this secluded area with these little girls. And ended up doing this and made him watch. somehow restrained him because they knew that they couldn't fight both him and do this to the girls, and somehow made him watch. And then, regardless whatever scenario, I believe that there is a very good chance, being that there was a bloody handprint that matched Decker and nobody else, that he could have been injured by somebody else, and then they ended up walking him away from the scene, possibly at gunpoint or whatever, and forced him to basically walk to his unaliving, whether it be they red-runed him and then threw him into that river or creek or whatever it was right there, or they could have even made him dig his own grave. I mean, who knows? But regardless, it could even be too that he ended up going somewhere and he unalived himself. That was another thing that was brought up as well, but I just can't get over the fact that the DNA in the bloody handprint matched Travis Decker. Yet there was no sign that the girls fought back. So tell me in the comments, what do y'all think? I know that my theories probably aren't going to be very popular, and I know that the majority of people out there believe that Decker did this and that he's still out there, he's still on the run, he's still hiding out somewhere and everything. But the more that I dive into this case, the more that I believe that he could not have done this to his daughters. He just doesn't seem like that type of a man. But then again, there's been many times that people have said, well, I would have never figured that he would do something like this. And unfortunately, until we find Decker, whether unalive or alive, that question's still going to hang in the air as to what happened. And there was only 4 or 5 people that know what happened that day, and 3 of them are already gone. One of them is missing, and nobody can find him. And then there's possibly another 1 person, or maybe even more. We don't know. So hit me up in those comments and tell me, what do you think? What are your thoughts on this case? Let's get back into the article now. Quote, "There was nothing we could do for them," unquote, McLeod said. Quote, "I was angry. Where is he?" Quote, end quote. McLeod, a 20-year veteran with the Sheriff's Department, who has spent the last 9 years as a forest deputy, recalled finding Decker's wallet, noting it was the, quote, "only thing," end quote, left behind, and the outlet reported. Oh, that's another thing too. Okay, yes, he has survivalist training, but there was things left behind in that truck that anybody that is a survivalist or anybody that is planning on being on the run for any length of time would have taken and would not have left behind. For example, they said that there was food in there. They said there was water in there. There was clothing in there. So you mean to tell me that he went into those woods with nothing but the shirt on his back and the pants on his legs and didn't bring no food or water with him? He just left those there? If he was going out there and knew that he was going to be out there for a while, yeah, he could have premeditated this, okay? Because that's another theory out there, is that he premeditated this and went out and he put stores all throughout the mountains ahead of time, knowing that he was going to do this. But I don't see that happening. So why, if this was just a spur of the moment, lost his mind, or just lost it for a split second, why would he leave behind food and water and clothing? Make it make sense for me, please. I don't get it. Roughly 1 mile from where the girls' bodies were discovered, authorities reportedly found an abandoned orange tent. Okay, so this is local and federal authorities have tirelessly searched for Travis Decker after his disappearance on May 30th. That's the U.S. Marshal Service was the source for that one. It looked like a homeless person's tent, McLeod told USA Today. Floor was ripped, haphazardly put up, not an expensive tent. However, the cooler was placed neatly next to it, squared up to the tent. Authorities reportedly believe the tent is linked to Decker, but an investigation has not yet determined who the owner is. Numerous local, state, and federal agencies have continued to comb the woods for the fugitive father, while experiencing several environmental hurdles, according to Chelan County Sheriff Mike Morrison. I think that was it. Oh, no, it's still got more. Okay. Quote, "We can't get into the river yet because of spring runoff," end quote, Morrison told USA Today, referring to the campground's Icicle River. Officials are unable to search the area until the water recedes, which likely will not happen until July, according to McLeod. Despite the obstacles, authorities from at least 7 neighboring counties have followed countless tips in their hunt for Decker, with some leads running hot. See, they even had the copters out there. Look at that. That water is beautiful, actually. The U.S. Marshals Service released new photos detailing the challenging and extensive search for Travis Decker, accused of red rumming his 3 daughters. "We had some break-ins and some items missing from campsites," Morrison said. "Nothing came of them, but we're still following any leads that come in." However, the number of tips has reportedly dwindled as leads turn cold. Additionally, officers have started using cadaver dogs to search for Decker. The department previously confirmed to Fox News Digital. Quote, "Clearly, it's looking more like the probability he's deceased," end quote, Morrison told USA Today. Quote, "Does he have the potential of surviving out there? Yes, but with the amount of people out there with no signs whatsoever, it's not likely. It's possible, but for now we're presuming he is still alive," end quote. The U.S. Marshals Service remains the lead agency in the 4-week-long hunt, working alongside SWAT teams and local law enforcement. Quote, "You have to be responsible for your financial resources," end quote, Morrison said. Quote, "Which means you have to ask whether you are tracking active leads. Typically, people who disappear want to live in more populated areas where they have access to supplies," end quote. At the time of the girls' red rums, Decker was homeless, living between motels and campground sites, while suffering from mental health issues, according to court documents. He is charged with 3 counts of aggravated first-degree red rum and kidnapping. The Chelan County Sheriff's Office said in a press release on Tuesday that traces of blood found on the tailgate of Decker's truck belonged to the missing father, ruling out additional suspects. Okay, how can they rule out additional suspects just because they found his DNA on those handprints? I mean, who's to say that there wasn't somebody else there that injured him, in turn making him leave his DNA on the truck? If you notice, I'm very passionate about this case. Okay. Quote, with this evidence, along with other evidentiary items found at the scene, we do not have any reason to believe there are any other suspects, end quote, the statement said. Decker is described as a white man standing 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighing approximately 190 pounds. Authorities warn that he is considered armed and dangerous, but insist they have no reason to believe Decker is a threat to public safety. The U.S. Marshals Service is offering a $20,000 reward for any information leading to Decker's arrest. And this article, I think I forgot to tell y'all at the beginning, was published, let's see, July 1st at 11:12 a.m. Eastern Time, and was updated July 1 at 7:46 p.m. Eastern Time. So, I mean, this is over a month ago, almost a month and a half ago now. So, let's go back to the timeline. Okay, so we were on July 1st, right here. So now we go on to July 7th. Possible sighting prompts joint search in Idaho's Sawtooth National Forest. And then July 17th, Wenatchee PD releases Bodycam from May 27th crash, which we've already seen. I went ahead and played that, and we've already talked about that. And then July 21, 25, Wenatchee veterans call for better mental health services amid stalled manhunt. And thank goodness. I mean, if anything positive comes out of this case, it should be that our veterans need to have better services provided to them. I mean, it shouldn't take a situation like this for our veterans to have these services provided for them without having to jump through hoops. This is ridiculous. I'm sorry. Going off on a rant. I do apologize. July 22nd. Footage from May 27th made public via records request. Okay, so we've already talked about that. July 25th. Efforts scale back to Blewett Pass encampments due to fewer leads, no confirmation if alive or unalive, false TikTok claim debunked. And then July 27 through 28, active search reduced nearly 2 months post red rums due to decrease in leads, quote unquote. And then we got July 31st, so we're getting closer to the day. Sheriff suggests Decker may be getting aid to hide, which, I don't know. Okay, so August 2nd, possible sighting on Pacific Crest Trail near Leavenworth prompts renewed efforts, which I'm pretty sure they debunked that. And August 12th, which I do remember that there was one lead that they went and chased and found out that it was just a regular hiker out hiking, and ended up finding out that he just kind of sort of looked like Decker, and it wasn't him. And then recently, here, I think it was last week, they had another possible tip over there around Snoqualmie, and found out that ended up being debunked. That was no good. There was nothing that came of that one either. And then August 12th, which is today as I am doing this video, no capture, public/X discussions continue urging focus on case. Decker believed possibly unalive, in hiding, or fled. Reward stands, contact U.S. Marshals or 911 with tips. Okay, so we went over that article. And then now we're going to move on to the Montana Quadruple Homicides. And this will be Mykel Paul Brown. A timeline of the manhunt for rural Montana bar massacre suspect as a small town hopes for closure. Mykel Paul Brown was Montana's most wanted man after alleged shooting in rural western town. Now, this here is another veteran that also was suffering with mental illness. This article was published August 9th, 2025 at 4:39 p.m. Eastern Time. And this man actually has been arrested. So he is no longer on the loose. We'll first watch this video before we get into the article. The caption underneath says, Anaconda Man Logan Lorengo describes chaotic scene during manhunt for suspect in bar massacre. A resident of Anaconda, Montana, who lives across the street from the bar where Mykel Paul Brown is accused of red rumming for people, says the close-knit town was rocked by alleged massacre.
I was coming down the road, and I saw ambulances down the road, and my first thought was, oh no, something happened to my client. But then I saw police blocking off the road, and I was like, I thought to myself, that's very unusual. And then I got a call from a client's wife, and she said that they were blocking off the road because police were telling them there was an active shooter in the area. So I left the area as soon as I could and called first my family and then work, and then I headed back home after that, and that's when everything started to get locked down when I got back home. I saw some of them when they were like blocking off the road, like over there. I didn't see like interact with any of the officers here the day of. I did interact with some officers on Wednesday when they were telling me they were going to be in the area, and actually later that night on Wednesday they actually got a call about someone who vaguely matched the description of the person. It's definitely a concern. I mean, like the fact that that police have expanded the search size and it's not going deeper into the mountains but closer to like the suburban areas outside of town is a little bit concerning. But right now I'm also fairly I feel like as of right now there's just way too much of a police pressure to like for like anyone to even like come within a certain vicinity without being spotted. The town,
wow, it just got windy all of a sudden.
It's a small community, so many people like know each other, or at the very least like we've all like interacted with each other to some degree. When this all went down, a lot of us got pretty spooked, but we were like we've had like incidents, not like to this degree, but some incidents that have been pretty bad, but have just gone by. We are now a week in, and I think the town is pretty anxious. There's discussions about like school opening and all that. That's got a lot of parents probably on edge. My mom's a teacher, and I know it's definitely got her on edge.
There's also this truck backing up.
I guess I just want to give a shout out to all of the surrounding communities. A big thanks for the outpour of support. There's been police cars that have come all the way out from Choteau County by Great Falls, and I mean and I heard like the ATF from Colorado has also been involved as well, and it's just like it's incredible to see that amount of like intercooperation, and it's very much appreciated.
Okay. So let's get this paused before it plays. There we go. All right, so Anaconda, Montana, an Army veteran, so another Army veteran as well, suspected in a bar shooting massacre that claimed 4 lives in a rural western town of 9,000 people, sparked a massive manhunt that lasted a full week. Mykel Paul Brown, 45, of Anaconda, Montana, was the state's most wanted man until his time on the lam ended near a barn just under 6 miles from the scene of his horrific crime. Now he is behind bars, where he is likely to remain for the rest of his life. Below is a timeline of the shooting and the events that followed. So Friday, August 1st. At around 10:30 a.m. local time, Brown entered the Owl Bar in Anaconda, a local watering hole where he was known to be a regular, and opened fire. He lived next door to the bar and quote, likely knew these patrons, unquote, according to the Montana Attorney General Austin Knudsen. Sorry if I butchered that. So this right here, this is the Owl Bar in Anaconda, Montana. And this picture was taken on August 7th, 2025, surrounded by crime scene tape. And it says, Montana manhunt expands for ex-soldier suspect seen with stolen survival gear after bar massacre. Brown was almost immediately identified as a suspect. A SWAT team raided his home, but he was not there. Montana Governor Greg Gianforte, sorry if I'm butchering that, confirmed in a mid-afternoon Facebook post that he was aware of the attack. Quote, I'm closely monitoring this situation involving an active shooter in Anaconda. Please join Susan and me in praying for the victims, their loved ones, and the brave law enforcement officers responding to this tragedy. End quote, he said on Facebook. The FBI and ATF then announced that they were headed to the scene to assist in locating Brown. The massive manhunt was launched in the rugged mountains of nearby Stumptown Road and included the Anaconda Deer Lodge County Law Enforcement Center, the Granite County Sheriff's Office, Montana Highway Patrol, FBI, and ATF. A lockdown was issued for that area. So right there, that is Mykel Paul Brown in that picture. I don't know why it looks like he's got snow all over on the front of it, but moving on. Authorities located a Ford F-150 that they say Brown was driving, but he was not with the truck, which was stocked with clothing, food, and outdoor gear. Later that day, Brown was identified as a former armor crewman in the Army from January 2001 to May 2005, who had served in the National Guard from April 2006 to March 2008. He deployed to Iraq from February 2004 to March 2005 and was a sergeant when he left active service. Was a sergeant when he left active service. He joined the Montana National Guard the next year and served until 2009. Saturday, August 2nd, authorities released a photo of a shirtless Brown scaling a cement staircase wearing black shorts. They said the photo was taken Friday shortly after the shooting. The lockdown was lifted in the Stumptown Road area, but the search, which included air and ground assets, expanded to the Barker Lakes area, according to the Associated Press. Knudsen said, or is that Cudson? Cudson said 250 law enforcement personnel were involved in Saturday's search efforts. Which that's him, and all he's wearing is just underwear in that picture. So it says the Department of Criminal Investigations in Montana released a new photo of Mykel Brown fleeing the scene after allegedly shooting and red rumming 4 people at the bar on August 1st, 2025. So I guess that these were steps near the bar? I don't know. So Sunday, August 3rd. Cudson identified the victim in an afternoon press conference and described the search as Montana's, quote, priority number 1, end quote. The victims were identified as Daniel Edwin Bailey, 59, Nancy Loretta Kelly, 64, David Allen Leach, 70, and Tony Wayne Palm, 74, all from Anaconda. Kelly was working as a bartender at the time. The 3 other victims were patrons. Cudson announced that the U.S. Marshal Service was offering a $7,500 reward for information leading to the arrest of Brown. He also confirmed that Brown used a rifle in the shooting and noted that Brown had access to firearms. Cudson reiterated that Brown should be considered, quote, armed and extremely dangerous, end quote. Quote, absolutely there is concern that he might come back into town, end quote, Cudson said. Quote, by all indications, this is an unstable individual who walked in and red-rummed 4 people in cold blood for no reason whatsoever. So absolutely there is a concern for public, end quote. And Monday, August 4th, the search for Brown continued on Monday. The U.S. Marshal Service upped the reward for information leading to his capture to $10,000. Tuesday, August 5th, Gianforte held his first press conference since the Barna massacre. Flanked by high-ranking local, state, and federal law enforcement officials, he said he had spoken to the families of the victims to offer his condolences on behalf of the state of Montana. Quote, since the tragic event, our Montana law enforcement officers have been unrelenting in their pursuit, working around the clock to bring the suspect, Mykel Brown, to justice for his heinous acts, end quote, said Gianforte. He added that, I went a little too far up, sorry. He added that a Montana National Guard helicopter from the Helena Battalion and its 4 crew had flown 19 hours over the weekend to assist in the search and to transport law enforcement in and out of the mountainous search area. You know what? That looks so beautiful. I mean, this was a horrendous crime, but just look at that picture. That is just so beautiful looking. He said that under Montana law, he is able to release emergency state funding to local law enforcement agencies at their request in times of need. Quote, "This morning I received that request from Anaconda Deer Lodge, and moments ago I signed an executive order to support the efforts of the local law enforcement," end quote, he said. Quote, "While the state has already been supporting these investigations with staff and aviation assets, this action today will ensure additional financial resources are available as we continue to track down this criminal," end quote. Hudson provided an update on the ongoing search and took questions from reporters. Citing the ongoing investigation, he could not confirm whether authorities had recovered a weapon used in the shooting or whether Brown left behind any clues as to his motive. What's that? Let's see. Mykel Brown's home on East 3rd Street in Anaconda, Montana, is boarded up after being raided by SWAT team on Friday, August 1st, 2025. Wow. They must have busted up all his windows or something. Is that why it's boarded up? Or do they just board it up so that nobody can look inside or access it? That's interesting. And his grass is all overgrown, but that was probably before. Huh. So Wednesday, August 6th, the search remained ongoing on Wednesday without new updates from authorities. Thursday, August 7th, authorities continued to search for Brown on Thursday, while local residents told Fox News Digital that they feared his return to town. Quote, "He was always very skittish, just like his thoughts were always off the wall and always giving crazy stories. But he was a very sweet guy," end quote. I bet you don't think he's so sweet now, huh, Jill Rolls, a bartender at JFK Bar, just 1 block from the Owl Bar, told Fox News Digital. So that's right there. This is who made that quote. But I bet you don't think he's so sweet anymore. Rolls was a friend of Kelly, the victim and bartender at the Owl Bar. Quote, "The town is just scared. Everybody's scared. You see everything on Facebook like that. You hear the sirens go by and your stomach just turns," end quote, she said. Quote, "Everybody's in shock. And hey, everybody's on edge. With me bartending, I'm looking at those doors constantly," she said, gesturing towards the 2 entrances of the bar, end quote. Another resident, Matt Fontenot, described a dispirited town that spent the week on edge. Quote, "I feel like the air has almost changed, like the attitude of the town has grown just a little bit more submissive than usual. Just because people feel like they don't really have control over their lives as much right now because of this," end quote, he said. Friday, August 8th. The manhunt for Brown in the mountainous terrain continued in the morning. Oh, look at that. Look at all the flowers and everything, the little memorial. What's this right here? It looks like some kind of little, like, keepsake box, maybe? I don't know. Maybe it's just part of this pole right here. I'm not sure. This looks like it might be some kind of candle, remembrance candle. Oh, how sweet. Flowers and mementos rest on the street in front of the Owl Bar in Anaconda, Montana, where 4 people were shot and red-rummed on Friday, April 1, 2025. Aww. Several residents of the town expressed to Fox News Digital the desire for the manhunt to come to a conclusion, with Brown dead or alive, so the community could grieve its loss in peace. Suddenly, in the early afternoon, information began to spread that Brown had been taken into custody. Shortly thereafter, Giaforte confirmed the news on social media. At around 4:30 p.m., Forte and Knudsen, again surrounded by local, state, and federal law enforcement, emerged from the Deer Lodge County Courthouse for a press conference to discuss Brown's arrest. Quote, "Our brave men and women in law enforcement didn't waste a second," end quote, Giafonte said. Quote, "They jumped into action and began the search with the promise to not give up until they found this suspect. Today, I am grateful to report that Mykel Brown has been apprehended, arrested, and is in custody," end quote. Knudsen then took the podium. And let's see, they've got, this is an actual video, I think. Yeah, this is a video. So let's go ahead and play this and see what they have to say.
The search is over after a week-long manhunt for the suspect in a deadly quadruple homicide at a Montana bar. Authorities arrested Army veteran Mykel Brown on Friday, just 5.5 miles from the crime scene near a barn on private property in Anaconda. Montana's governor says the U.S. Marshal Service was a huge asset in the arrest.
They spent hours climbing over these mountains looking for this criminal. They used every resource available to them to search for him. Thank you does not cover what we owe to these brave men and women.
130 law enforcement professionals were involved in the search in unusually chilly and rainy weather.
Quote, "This really is an unprecedented level of cooperation," end quote, Knudsen said, referencing local, state, and federal authorities who assisted in the arrest. Quote, "It's a good day. We got our man," end quote. He gave special thanks to the U.S. Marshal Service, calling them a, quote, "huge asset to us here today," end quote, and said they were, quote, "directly involved," end quote, in Brown's Friday apprehension. He revealed that 130 personnel were involved in the search and that tips from the community also played a significant role in capturing Brown. Geez, 130 personnel. Good Lord. Brown was tracked down near a barn on a private property about 5.5 miles from the Owl Bar. The officials said he was taken to a local hospital to be medically cleared and was then booked into jail. Citing an ongoing investigation, authorities provided few other details. The charges against Brown have not been made public, nor has his motive for the alleged red rummings. Well, don't know what his motive is for the alleged red rummings, but I mean, his charges, I mean, come on. 4 counts of first degree red rumming? It's gotta be. So let's go ahead and move on now. This was an article that I took a look at real quick, this video is already super long, so we're already over an hour now at this point. I'm going to go ahead and skip this article, but this is actually talking about Mykel Brown's brother is actually already serving a life sentence for a separate red rumming conviction in the same exact town. So I was kind of thinking it would be interesting to read over, but what I'll do is I'll go ahead and I'll put the link down in the description box, and if y'all want, you can go ahead and take a read at it. But being that this video is already as long as it is, I'm not going to go through the article. We can go ahead and take a look at this. At this video, though, because it's only 4 minutes long, but I'm not going to actually go through the article, though. So here we go.
Prosecutor Jim Trusty joins us now. I just want to play this as call for number 3 about the possibility of being this man being still a danger to the public.
Absolutely, there's concerns he might come back into town. By all indications, this is an unstable individual who walked in and murdered 4 people in cold blood for no reason whatsoever. So there absolutely is concern for the public. Again, I'm going to stress, we believe this is an armed and extremely dangerous individual. I'm going to ask the public to be vigilant.
Jim Trusty, I'm going to put up on the board for everybody to see what we know about the suspect at this time. 45 years old, and you just heard William LaJeunesse report. He did serve in the Army from 2001 to 2005, and then he was in the National Guard from 2006 to 2009. Possibly has PTSD and a history of mental illness. So what is law enforcement to do?
Yeah, I mean, they're taking the right approach. You have to have a wide net. You have to recognize that he is dangerous, that it might have been targeted in the sense of that he knew the folks that worked at the bar, the oncology nurse that moonlighted as a bartender, and the 3 regulars. But, I mean, he's walking into a bar at 10:30 a.m., slaughtering 4 people, and then walking out stripped down to his boxers. I mean, this is a case that's firmly at that horrible intersection of crazy and criminal. And so, you know, look, I don't think this is going to turn into a...
Yeah, you guys seen that, what they're talking about, where he stripped down to his boxers? That was that one picture that y'all seen where he was walking in on those, like, kind of like rock stairs, I guess you would call them, or concrete steps or whatever, where he was just wearing the black boxers. That's what they're talking about.
Eric Rudolph situation,
there you
the
go.
Atlanta bomber, who was a very serious trained survivalist who was able to kind of disappear into the woods in North Carolina and Tennessee for a long, long time. This guy has familiarity from camping and from being out there, but he's beleaguered with his own demons, and I think he's going to end up, unfortunately, probably either dying of his own hand or considering something like a suicide by cop when they close
there's
in on
that
him,
picture
particularly
right
he has a
there.
weapon. So I don't think it's going to end particularly well, but it's a tragic circumstance, a terrible case.
And as you told our producer, you believe if he's on foot, they will find him. Let's talk about another case. This was in Tennessee, a terrible situation. The manhunt is underway to try to find out who murdered these 4 relatives. The baby was abandoned 40 miles away. We just still don't have a lot of information, but we do have this.
They're talking about the drumming case.
Person who was brought in,
Okay, I don't understand why they weren't talking about this one here, but you know what? Here, I'll go ahead, and it says it's only 2 minutes to listen to the article, so I'll go ahead and play this for y'all, and it'll run through and read it for you.
Montana fugitive's brother serving life sentence for separate murder conviction in same town. The brother of a Montana man who is on the run after allegedly shooting 4 people to death in a small-town bar has a brother who is currently serving a life sentence, Fox News Digital has confirmed. William Brown was sentenced to 110 years in prison in 2002 for the stabbing death of another man in Anaconda, Montana, which stemmed from an argument over a relationship, according to. The first 100 years of the sentence were handed down for the murder, and the other 10 for the use of a deadly weapon during the crime. Brown is the brother of Mykel Paul Brown, 45, who is a fugitive from justice after he allegedly shot and killed 4 people in a bar, also in the town of Anaconda, on Friday morning. The Army veteran allegedly opened fire in the Owl Bar at around 10 a.m. on that day, killing 59-year-old Daniel Edwin Bailey, 64-year-old Nancy Loretta Kelly, 70-year-old David Allen Leach, and 74-year-old Tony Wainpalm. All the victims are from Anaconda. Since then, an intense manhunt has been underway in mountainous central Montana as authorities desperately try to apprehend Brown, who they say is armed and dangerous. What precipitated the shooting remains unknown. On Friday evening, authorities released a photo of a shirtless Brown wearing a black shirt, climbing down what appears to be concrete steps. They also announced that they had located a white Ford F-150 truck belonging to Brown, which they say he used to flee the scene of the shooting. A SWAT team raided his home, but did not locate him. In a Sunday night update, authorities said the search for Brown included air and ground resources. Brown was an armor crewman in the Army from January 2001 to May 2005 and served in the National Guard from April 2006 to March 2008. Army Public Affairs confirmed to Fox News Digital. He deployed to Iraq from February 2004 to March 2005 and left the service with the rank of sergeant. He also served in the Montana National Guard from April 2006 to March 2009. Fox News Digital's Greg Weiner contributed to this report.
Wow, at first I was going to say that the bot was doing better than me on the article, on reading the article, but then it started messing up like crazy. Sorry about that, y'all. Okay, so we're going to go to our last article now, and this will go ahead and end out our video for tonight. Now, this is that expert that I was talking about, and this is most recent article that I was able to find on Decker, which, like I said, this also includes Mykel Brown as well in the article, and that's the reason why I went into the Mykel Brown case too. But it says oh, I'm up too high here. Special Forces vet exposes tactics of Montana, Washington state survivalist. Can't stay hidden forever. Mykel Brown allegedly shot 4 at Montana bar, while Travis Decker is accused of red rumming 3 daughters. And this was published August 11, 2025 at 8 a.m. Eastern Time. And the reason why these articles are done in Eastern Time is because that's the time zone that I'm in. And so I guess it's just picking up my computer time, my computer clock. So we're going to go ahead and listen to this man. He is a retired Special Forces officer, and he's going to break down Mykel Brown and Travis Decker's chances in the wild. It says down here, Fox News Digital spoke with Mykel Hawke, a retired U.S. Army Special Forces officer, author, and television and film personality, on the ongoing manhunts in Washington State and Montana for Travis Decker and Mykel Brown. I mean, at this point, Mykel Brown was already caught, so I don't know why they're saying ongoing, because Mykel Brown was no longer on the run, I think, right? Let me see, when was Mykel Brown? That's the wrong article. I think he was caught on the 8th, wasn't he, right? Around 4:30 p.m. Yeah, on the 8th. That's what I thought. Okay, but we're going to go ahead and listen to what he has to say now.
Both of these gentlemen are combat veterans. Operationally, neither one of them are technically special operations. And that's an important distinction, okay? Because then it drives the tactical perspective. What might they be doing? How might they be dealing with this? What are their courses of action? On a tactical level.
See, now that surprised me, because I was under the impression that Decker was. So I've got to dive more deeper into that to find out if he was. But according to this guy, he wasn't.
Decker tried to be a ranger. So he went to jump school, paratrooper school, and he went to Ranger Battalion, and he actually deployed to Afghanistan. So he's got the combat experience, but he did not get a Ranger tab. And the reason that's significant, because that says something went wrong. Somebody somewhere along the line decided, okay, he's not quite right to be a Ranger. Then it looks like he went into the National Guard. He went to a first level of military education, and it wasn't an infantry school. He was with communications and civil affairs type of school, which says, okay, he clearly did not go the tactical route of remaining an infantry guy. All right. So putting that in perspective, what that means is very rarely do they allow a Ranger who is not Ranger qualified to go to SEER school or our special operations school. So that tells me a little bit of the limitations on his military survival background. Let's pivot very quickly over to Brown. So same thing. He served strategically in combat. Operationally, he was an armor crewman. Technically, that counts as a combat arms, but it's a very different thing when you're in an armored vehicle versus when you're in the ground, facing the enemy directly, right? And he served in Iraq. Then he gets out, and both men also, after they did their active duty tours, went into the National Guard. So they kept some semblance of their military training. But again, being an armor crew guy, he would not have had any real survival experience other than the little bit of training you get informally before you make a deployment. All right. And that's not anything significant. Okay. When you're talking about SEER, survival, escape, resistance, and evasion, they're taught how to live off the land first and foremost, and then how to try to survive while they're being hunted. Significant caveat, right? So neither of these guys have that. First and foremost, they're going to be out there beating the brush with their feet, right? Boots on ground. Secondly, they're probably going to have dogs. So they're going to be looking for scent and trail. And they're using aviation assets, both helicopters and I imagine drones. Recently, they just found the helmet of some guy that was lost like 8 years ago. And so by using drones, they found his helmet and then.
See, now that's rather interesting that they found this guy's helmet and then they ended up finding the remains, I believe is what he ends up saying. That's rather interesting. 8 years after this man had passed away.
And they were able to find his body. Also, for anybody going out there, you got to stay alert, looking around. Hey, is there a trail going into the bush here that doesn't look right and it doesn't look like a game trail? Hey, is there any kind of litter here? Hey, is there a human scat, without toilet paper or something like that? Anything like that, being aware, going out there and being ready, being prepared for that. I mean, if these guys are desperate, then they.
And that's one thing that I would never even think of, just being a regular person, that looking for scat, human scat, without toilet paper in it. I mean, that's just, I don't know, just never something that I would think of looking for when looking for somebody that's on the run. But yeah, I mean, little things like that. Would you ever think to look for that?
They might just rob people. They might want somebody for a hostage. So people, I would recommend stay out of those areas. If they go, bring some protection with them and be ready, and make sure whatever they do, they have their comms ready, their phone, their satellite phone, whatever, or their little spot, so they can say, hey, I'm in trouble, send help, right? Anything like that if they must go out there. So protection, awareness, and communication for anybody that's going out there. But for the police, the extra danger is if they start to get close. Both of them are military, and they do have some skills in ambushing. I think with the Decker situation, he'll probably be very skilled at basic infantry tactics, and that would be a higher risk than, say, the armor guy that Brown is.
So what did y'all think of that? Go ahead and put your thoughts down there in the comments for me. You think that this guy is on par here? I mean, I didn't really think that Mykel Brown was going to be out there very long before he was found. But Decker, on the other hand, I feel like he had a lot more training as far as survival skills went. And like I said, I thought that Decker was more of a survivalist just based on what I've already found out about him. Than what this guy portrayed him to be. But there again, that just means I got to dig further. That's all. Okay. Anaconda, Montana. One of 2 violent fugitives have been caught and another is still on the run. Both are former members of the U.S. military, with one suspected of carrying out a deadly attack on a Montana bar and the other allegedly against his 3 young children. Mykel Paul Brown, 45, was on the run after allegedly shooting 4 people in the Anaconda, Montana Owl Bar on Friday morning. 33-year-old Travis Decker has been a fugitive in Washington state after he allegedly red-rummed his 3 young daughters on May 30th. In both cases, local and federal law enforcement teamed up to deploy helicopters and ground teams to track the suspects across mountainous terrain. To better understand the tactical and physiological elements at play, Fox News Digital spoke with retired U.S. Army Special Forces officer Mykel, Hawke, a survival expert known for his television work. Quote, "Sooner or later, you're going to leave a footprint that somebody can find," end quote, he said. And then there's Travis Decker, another face of Travis Decker. And then, of course, there's Mykel Brown, which we've already seen that picture. So, military background and training. Although both Decker and Brown served in combat zones, Hawke emphasizes the distinction between basic military training and elite-level survival instruction. Quote, "Neither of these guys have that SIR school or our special operations school," end quote. He said, referencing the military's intensive survival, evasion, resistance, and escape training, end quote. I'm sorry. Yeah, end quote. I was right. Sorry. It's not referencing the, yeah, see, they put the end quote there where it's not supposed to be, he said. Quote, "That tells me a bit of the limitations of their military survival background," end quote. So, Decker, limited tactical credentials. Decker attempted to become an Army Ranger and completed jump school, which I'm not quite sure what jump school is. That's something that I'm going to have to dive into further before I put my deep dive video out. Deploying to Afghanistan with a Ranger battalion. However, he never earned a Ranger tab. Quote, "That says something went wrong," end quote, Hawke said. Quote, "Somewhere along the line, somebody decided he's not quite right to be a Ranger," end quote. Look at those precious little angels. Oh, man. It just breaks my heart. No matter what happened, I mean, they're the real reason for doing all this. Want to see them get justice, regardless of whoever did it. I just want to see them get justice. That's the whole point of putting this out there and trying to get this case back out in the public and get it traction again. Because it's like they just gave up on Decker. At least that's how it seems. They're not really putting out any stories anymore or anything like that. After his deployment, Decker shifted into the National Guard and pursued a military track outside of the infantry, focusing on communications and civil affairs. That pivot, Hawke explained, further limited Decker's access to tactical survival training, such as the Army's elite SIR course. Now, with Decker, he actually would go out. I mean, this was confirmed by his very own father. He would go out for like 2.5 months at a time and live out on the grid all by himself. So it wasn't unusual for him to go out there and just live off the grid. I mean, it was kind of like a hobby to him, I guess. Brown, armored crewman, not infantry. Brown served as an armored crewman, with Hawke saying, quote, "They don't spend a lot of time on the ground. They're not digging foxholes and sleeping in hammocks like the infantry guys do," unquote. Quote, "As an armor guy, they just don't spend a lot of time in their whole military experience on the ground," end quote, he said. Doesn't that look just beautiful? It looks so peaceful and just, oh my gosh. It just makes you just feel so relaxed, and you just kind of like looking at that picture, you can just hear kind of like little rapids going in the background, like way back in the back of the picture. I hear rapids, little rapids rushing by, and just the sound of water kind of slowly moving on through. A river runs calmly through a valley in Glacier National Park in Montana. Authorities were searching for Mykel Paul Brown in the Montana wilderness. God, that just looks so peaceful, though. Wow. The Army said Brown was an armor crewman from January 01 to May 05 and was in the Montana National Guard from April 06 to March 09. He was deployed to Iraq from February 04 to March 05 and left the Army with the rank of sergeant. Quote, "This is an unstable individual who walked in and red-rummed 4 people in cold blood for no reason whatsoever." End quote. Montana Attorney General Austin Cudson said Sunday. Quote, "So there absolutely is concern for the public." End quote. Survivalist capabilities in the wilderness. According to Hawke, surviving in the wilderness, especially while evading an active manhunt, requires more than basic military experience. Quote, "Everybody needs food," end quote, Hawke said, explaining that without a prepacked supply, a fugitive would have to rely on hunting and foraging. He noted that setting traps and snars typically requires staying static. The U.S. Marshal Special Operations Group, SOG, is working with the Border Patrol Tactical Unit and the King County Sheriff's Office in the hunt for Travis Decker. Yeah, we've seen that picture before. Oh, there's more pictures here. Yeah, local and federal authorities have tirelessly searched for Travis Decker following his disappearance since May 30th. The U.S. Marshal Service released new photos detailing the challenging and extensive search for Travis Decker, accused of red-rumming his 3 daughters. Deputies participate in the search for Travis Decker at an undisclosed location in Washington State, June 6, 2025. That was the last image. Water, too, is a constant concern. Quote, "They're going to need water. If they don't have a water source, they're going to have to treat that water," he said. Quote, end quote, he said. "The most common method, boiling, demands fire, which creates smoke and scent," he said. "Without fire, fugitives are forced to rely on chemical purification, like iodine tablets, or risk drinking untreated water." I remember that from when my boys were in Cub Scouts. We ended up talking about how to treat water if you're ever out in the woods and get lost or something like that, and you have to treat water. And yeah, there's different ways to decontaminate regular groundwater, but and yes, fire is one of them, but then they do have different like purification, like the iodine tablets, and there were some other ways too. I mean, you can actually create a filter using like a coffee filter, and there was some other stuff too. My son did a whole presentation on it for one of his belt buckles in Cub Scouts. And shelter is another necessity. Quote, "The nights will still get cold up there," end quote, Hawke said, emphasizing that unless they brought proper gear, they'd have to build or find natural cover. Which, I mean, is that really hard? They could easily dig like a little burrow because the ground is a natural insulator. So, I mean, I don't know what... I don't live up there in that area. So, is it real hard to dig into the earth up there, would they be able to kind of dig into it, or even just take and cover themselves with like pine needles? Or, well, I live in Florida, so we got lots of pine trees down here, but I'm sure up there they got pine trees and stuff. But like with branches and leaves and stuff like that, that would be kind of like a natural insulator that they could cover themselves with. Or even if there's like moss. Moss is a very good insulator too if you're out in the wild and you need something to help keep your body heat enclosed to your body. So is it really hard to find natural cover? I mean, is there caves around there that they could somehow go into? I mean, granted, if there's caves, then there's the possibility of wildlife being in those caves that you may not want to mess with. Navigating remote terrain presents additional challenges. Hawke believes they likely wouldn't use GPS devices out of fear of being tracked. Of course. I mean, yeah, that's a duh, unless they're really stupid criminals, meaning they need to rely on maps, compasses, or local knowledge. Quote, I doubt they're relying on GPS because that would ping them. End quote, he said. Oh, we got another video here. So let's see. Let's watch this video here. Or did we already see this one?
We know that this guy knows the country. He knows the terrain. He spent time out there. We know he's backpacked and spent time in the area. We do believe he's in that area. We've got some pretty good intel that he is still in that area. This is a mountain town. There's a lot of timber. There's a lot of really, really thick undergrowth growing up the side of these mountains that makes searching really, really difficult.
Right. All right, we are waiting any moment now. As you can see the live shot there, Montana state leaders about to speak as this manhunt for a suspected mass murderer intensifies. Mykel Paul Brown has been on the run for 5 days now after gunning down 4 people at a bar in the town of Anaconda. We are going to...
Which there again, the timber and everything, I mean, branches falling from the timber and stuff, he could have used it easily for like cover to help keep himself warm at night.
Now listen in live for the update here. Let's listen.
Last Friday. Before I begin, I'd like to take a moment of silence to acknowledge the loss of 4 Montanans, 59-year-old Daniel Edwin Bailey, 64-year-old Nancy Loretta Kelly, 70-year-old David Allen Leach, and 74-year-old Wayne Palm. Thank you. May God rest their souls and comfort their families at this difficult time. I've spoken with members of the victims' families and shared condolences on behalf of the people of Montana. Please keep them in your prayers.
Okay, apparently I'm starting to have internet issues, so we're going to go ahead and skip that video. I'm going to be posting this link down anyways in the description box, so you'll be able to go ahead and view that on your own. We're almost at the end of this article anyways, so ultimately survival comes down to strategy, whether to stay hidden or move on or keep moving. Quote, you're either hiding or you're running, said Hawke. And hiding means sooner or later you're going to leave a footprint. If you're running, you're going to make all kinds of mistakes, and there is a higher likelihood of getting caught. Quote, it is almost impossible for a human to survive for any period of time without leaving a sign, end quote, he said. A $10,000 reward was available for information leading to Brown's capture. A reward of $20,000 is being offered for information leading directly to Decker's arrest. Officials say he is considered to be armed and dangerous. So, in other words, don't play hero if you do come across him. Just call the authorities. So, thank you very much, and stay safe, stay happy, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.